Hello, I'm Matthew. This is Olga. And together we tell story. And this afternoon, our story is being filmed. So if we could ask that if you have a mobile phone, please could you check that it is on silent? And if you have a babe in arms or a very young one who gets quite distracted, please feel free to step out for a while. But for now, outside, it is approaching twilight on a day in midwinter. In here, all is dark and we are ready for some stories. So please sit back, relax, and surrender yourself to the delicate mystery of the Little Prince. One day, 6 years ago, my plane crashed in the Sahara Desert. I was alone. I had a week's worth of water. I'd have to fix the engine myself, or else I would die. That first night, I slept out on the sand, 1,000 miles from the nearest human habitation. So you can imagine my surprise when at dawn, I was awoken by a little voice that said, "Please, draw me a sheep." What? Draw me a sheep. There in front of me was a little boy looking very serious. We were in the middle of nowhere, but he didn't seem frightened or lost. "What are you doing here?" I asked. But he didn't answer. Instead, he said, as though it was the most important thing in all the world, "Please, draw me a sheep." Well, at school I had to study maths and grammar, and as I told the lad, I don't know how to draw, but he said, "That doesn't matter. Draw me one anyway." Well, sometimes you just have to give in. Absurd though it seems, 1,000 miles from anywhere, a week's water away from death, I reached into my pocket. I took out my fountain pen, I took out some paper, and I tried to draw a sheep. He looked at it and went, "No, that sheep looks ill. Draw me another." So I tried again. This time he laughed. He said, "That's not a sheep, and you know it. It's got horns. It's a ram. Draw me another." Tried again. But he rejected this one as well, saying, "That sheep looks old. I want a sheep that will last a long time." Well, by this stage, I was getting impatient to start repairing my engine, so I roughly sketched a box with 4 holes in the side, and I handed it to him, and I said, "He's in there." And to my surprise, his eyes lit up. He said, "This is exactly what I want." And that is how I met the Little Prince. Now, the Little Prince was very good at asking questions, but if you asked him a question, he wouldn't answer. When he saw my plane, he said, "Ah, so you too came out of the sky. Which is your planet?" "Earth," I said. "Why, do you come from another planet?" And he said nothing, because he didn't answer the question. Instead, he got the picture out of the box, and he said, "What I like about this is that at night the sheep can stay in here and sleep in here." And I said, "Yes, and I could draw you a rope, and I could draw you a post to tie him to." "Why?" he said. "Well, to stop him wandering off." "Where would he go?" "Well, anywhere," I said. "Maybe just straight ahead." "Ah," said the Little Prince, "you don't know my planet. My planet is so small, if you only go straight ahead, you can't go very far." So now I knew 2 things about the Little Prince. 1, He came from another planet. And 2, that planet was as small as a building. Later, I learnt its name, Asteroid B612. Now, I see that in the audience today we have grown-ups and younger people. So I think for a moment I shall address the younger people, and I shall tell you something about grown-ups. If you tell a grown-up, I saw a beautiful house with rosy bricks and geraniums in the window and doves on the roof, they look at you blankly. But if you tell them, I saw a house that cost £500,000, then they say, oh, that sounds like a very pretty house. You see, they need numbers to understand things. Likewise, if you tell them the little prince was charming, he laughed, he had golden hair, then they don't understand. But if you tell them that he came from Asteroid B612, then they understand. This is what grown-ups are like. You mustn't hold it against them. Children, you should be very tolerant of grown-ups. Now, on the 3rd day, after I crashed in the desert and I was trying to repair my engine, the little prince came up to me and he asked, "Do sheep eat small bushes?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Good. So that means that they also eat baobabs." And I said, "No." "Why not?" "Because baobabs are trees. Huge trees. Some of them as tall as castles." "Yes," he said, "but surely they're small when they're young." "Well, yes," I said. "But why are you interested as to whether a sheep would eat a baobab?" And he looked at me and went, which wasn't really an answer. So I had to work this one out for myself. On his planet, as on all planets, there were good plants and bad plants, and these produced good seeds and bad seeds. But seeds, remember, are invisible. They sleep deep within the soil until one day, one of them decides to wake up. It gives a little yawn, and then timidly it pokes a shoot up towards the sun. And if it's a radish or a rosebush, a good plant, this is no problem. But if it's a bad plant, you must destroy the shoot straight away, especially if it is a baobab, because baobabs spread fast, and their root systems can destroy a small planet. Now, the little prince, he was worried. He feared that his planet was infested with bad seeds. So every morning, he would carefully look out and see what shoots had grown up overnight, and he would pull them out if they looked bad. As he said to me, "You know, there are some chores you can put off until tomorrow, but with baobabs, that is disastrous." Oh, little prince, gradually I learnt the secrets of your lonely life. On the morning of the 4th day, you came to me and you said, "I love sunsets. Let's go and look at a sunset now." And I said, "We can't." You said, "Why not?" "Well, it's not time," I said, "for sunset." And you said, "Oh, I keep forgetting I'm not on my planet." And I realized, oh little prince, that your planet is so small that all you have to do if you want to watch the sunset is to walk around, take a few steps. Twilight is whenever you want it. One day you told me you watched the sunset 44 times. "Sunsets are good when you're feeling sad," you said. "Were you very sad on the day of the 44 sunsets?" I asked you, but you didn't reply. On the 5th day, I was still repairing the engine, trying to repair the engine. And the little prince came to me and said, "Do sheep eat flowers?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Do they eat flowers with thorns?" And I said, "Yes." So he said, "Why do flowers have thorns?" Well, at that moment, I was trying to turn a nut that was stuck. To be honest, the engine looked like it was beyond repair, and truth be told, I was running out of water. But he bothered me again. He said, "Why do flowers have thorns?" Well, I wasn't thinking, so I said, "There's no point to them. Flowers only have them out of spite." "Oh," he said, "flowers are weak. They must reassure themselves as best they can. They think that their thorns are powerful weapons." Well, I was thinking, if I can't turn this nut, I'm gonna hit it with a hammer. But he bothered me again. "And you think that flowers..." I said, "I don't think anything. Can't you see? I'm busy with something important here." "Something important?" He stared at me, standing there with the hammer in my hands. "You talk just like a grown-up." He was angry. I felt ashamed, but he continued. "You confuse everything." He was so angry. His hair, the curls of his hair were trembling in the breeze. And he started shouting at me. He said, "I personally know a flower that grows nowhere but on my planet, and yet she could be destroyed by a single bite from a single sheep, and you think that's not important?" He was turning white with anger, and he said, "If someone loves such a flower, then it makes him happy to look at the stars and think that somewhere up there is my flower. But if the flower is destroyed, then all the stars are darkened, and you think that is not important." Night had fallen. I dropped the hammer. The engine was not important now. All that mattered was that on one star, one planet, the Earth, my planet, there was a little prince who needed comforting. I took him in my arms. I hugged him. I said, "Look, the flower you love is not in danger. I will draw a screen to protect her. I will draw a muzzle for the sheep. I couldn't think what else to say. I couldn't think how to reach him. It's such a secret place, the land of tears. On the fifth day, I learnt how he'd met the flower. Now, one day, as usual, he was picking up or looking for baobab shoots. But then he saw someone. It was unusual. It was a flower waiting to come out. She took her time, choosing her colors carefully. This flower didn't want to emerge crumpled like a poppy. She wanted to appear complete and radiant. She was a bit of a diva. Finally, one morning, exactly at sunrise, she made her appearance, saying, "Oh, forgive me. I'm such a mess." "No, you're not," he said. "You're beautiful." "Oh, am I?" she said. "And to think, I was born at the same time as the sun." Well, you're not very modest, he thought, but you do smell nice. Then she said, "It's nearly breakfast time. Would you be so kind?" He took the hint, and he went off to get her some water. And she said, "I'm not afraid of tigers. I've got 4 thorns." "Well, there are no tigers on this planet," he said. "In any case, tigers don't eat weeds." "I'm not a weed," she said. But she was certainly vain. A few days later, she said to him, "I don't like drafts. This planet is cold. Where I come from," she was going to say, but she stopped herself just in time because she remembered that she'd arrived as a seed, so she couldn't know about other planets, and she felt embarrassed. So she gave a little cough. But he wasn't embarrassed. "Where's my screen?" she said. "I'm just going to get it." And then she gave another little cough to make him feel worse. "Why did I leave her?" he later told me. "Why did I abandon her? I should have known that behind all that trickery there was affection. I shouldn't have judged her by what she said, but what she did," said the little prince. "And what she did was to fill my planet with lovely perfume. But I was too young to know how to love her." One day, the prince woke up and thought, "I need to leave this planet. I need to go and explore other worlds." Before he went, he first gave his planet a good clean. He scrubbed out the 2 volcanoes which he had. He used them to cook his breakfast. And once he'd scrubbed them out, he picked some baobab shoots. And then he watered the flower. And as he was watering the flower, he realized he might cry. "Goodbye," he said, but she didn't answer. "Goodbye," he said. And she said, "Please forgive me. I've been silly. I hope that you'll be happy." He was surprised at her sudden sweetness. "I do love you," she said. "It's my fault you didn't know that. But you've been silly too. Now don't worry about a screen. I don't need a screen at night." And he said, "But what about the cold wind?" She said, "I'm a flower. I must get used to the night air." But what about the animals?" he said. "Oh," said the flower, "I suppose I'll have to put up with a caterpillar or 2 if I want to meet a butterfly. And I understand butterflies are really beautiful. In any case, who's going to talk to me once you've gone? Now, you've decided to go, so go! Don't linger! Go!" She didn't want him to see her cry. She was a very proud flower. And off he went. He decided to visit, first, some local stars. He visited 6 local planets, each one as small as his, and each one containing a single inhabitant. And the first star that he came to was Asteroid 325. This was inhabited by a king. And the king's throne plus his gown took up most of the planet. "Aha!" he said. "Here's one of my subjects." You see, to a king, everyone else is just a subject. "Approach more closely," he said. He was delighted, this king, to have someone to rule over at last. But the little prince gave a yawn. "It is not permitted to yawn in the presence of the king." "I couldn't help it," he said. "I couldn't help it. I've been travelling. I didn't sleep last night." "Ah," said the king. "Then I order you to yawn. Go on, yawn again. I haven't seen anybody yawn in years. That is an order. Yawn." "But I don't need to yawn now." "Ah," said the king. "Then I order you sometimes to yawn and sometimes not to yawn. That's my command." "Oh," said the little prince. "May I sit down?" "I order you to sit down," he said, and he pulled up a bit of his gown. And looking down at him, the king said, "I shall make you a minister." "Minister of what?" "Minister of justice." "But there's no one here to judge." "Ah," said the king. And the little prince went away, thinking, grown-ups are very strange. The second planet that he came to was also occupied by a single person, and this was a self-important man. "Ah, here's one of my fans. You see, to self-important people, everyone else is merely an admirer." "Hello," said the little prince. "That's a funny hat." "Ha ha! This is the hat I lift when people praise me." But this baffled the little prince, so the man said, "Clap your hands." So the little prince clapped his hands, and immediately the man lifted his hat. "This is fun," thought the little prince. So again, he clapped his hands. And again the man lifted his hat. And again he clapped his hands, he lifted his hat, and he clapped his hands, and this went on for a little while and on until the little prince got bored of it. And he said, "If clapping makes you lift the hat, what makes you lower it?" But the man didn't listen to him. You see, self-important people only listen to praise. Instead, he said, "Now, young man, tell me how much you admire me." "What does admire mean?" "Admire means you think I'm the handsomest, cleverest, and best-dressed person on this planet." "But you're the only person on this planet." "Oh, admire me anyway. Do me the favour." "All right," said the little prince. "I admire you." And he went on his way thinking, grown-ups are very strange. The third planet was inhabited by a drunken man who lay amongst a pile of empty bottles. "What are you doing?" "I am drinking." "Why are you drinking?" "I'm drinking to forget." "Forget what?" "Forget that I am ashamed." "Ashamed of what?" "Ashamed of drinking." The little prince went away puzzled and sad. Grown-ups are very strange, he thought. Now the fourth planet of the 6 planets, was inhabited by a businessman. And the businessman was so busy, he didn't even look up at the young prince. 2 and 5 make 7, 7 and 3 make 10. Good morning. 10 and 5 make 15, 15 and 7 make 22. Sit down over there. 22, that makes 346,547,232. "What are you counting?" asked the little prince. "Counting those shiny things that lazy men dream about." "Oh, you mean stars?" "Yes, stars." "Why?" "Because I own them." "Why do you own them?" "Well, they make me rich." "And what good does it do you to be rich?" It means I can buy more stars, said the businessman. But what good does it do for the stars? Well, I count them, said the businessman. And then I recount them. Oh, said the little prince. You see, I own 2 volcanoes, which I clean out every day. And I own a flower, which I water every day, so I am useful to the flower and the volcanoes. But you are of no use to your stars. And the businessman opened his mouth and found he had nothing to say. And the little prince went on his way, thinking, grown-ups are very strange. Then he came to the 5th planet, and this was smaller than all the rest. And all that he could find on this planet was a street lamp, and beside it a lamplighter. And as he watched, the lamplighter turned on the street lamp. And then, after a little while, he turned it off. Shortly after that, he turned it on again. And then, a little while after that, he turned it off again. But no sooner had that happened than again he turned it on. Why do you keep turning that light on and off? Asked the little prince. Orders, said the man. I have to turn the lamp on every evening, and I have to turn it off every morning. But you're turning it off and on much more regularly than that. No, I'm not. You see, this planet turns so fast. It turns every minute. So every 30 seconds, I have to turn the light on or turn the light off. Oh, that's funny, said the little prince. It's not funny. I'm so tired. You've been here a week. A week? Yes, 7 minutes, 7 days. The little prince told me, I loved that lamplighter. He wasn't ridiculous like the businessman or the king. He was the only one who thought about other people apart from himself. We could have been friends, he said, but his planet was too small for friendship. Then the little prince came to the final local planet, the 6th planet. And there he found an old man writing in a big book. Who are you? He asked. I, he said. I am a geographer. You're a geographer? Do you have any oceans on your planet? I couldn't tell you, he said. But you're a geographer. Exactly. I'm far too important to run around looking for things. I stay at home, in my office, and I receive explorers and I write down what they tell me. So, you look like an explorer. Tell me about your planet. Oh, said the little prince, my planet's not very interesting. I've got 2 volcanoes. Oh, and I've got a beautiful flower. We don't record flowers. Why not? Because they are ephemeral. What does ephemeral mean? Ephemeral means that they may die at any time. Oh, thought the little prince. Oh no, I've left the flower all alone on the planet. She's only got 4 thorns and they're useless. And he became very sad. But then he remembered, I must travel to see other worlds. So he asked the geographer, he said, where do you recommend that I go next? And the geographer said, well, there is a planet. It has received very good reports, but it is a long, long way away. It's called planet Earth. Ah. So the little prince headed off to planet Earth. He made the long journey, but all the journey he still thought of his flower. Now you may think that the earth is covered in people, but it's not. In fact, if you took the billions of inhabitants on the earth and you gathered them all together in the same place at the same time, they would all fit into a square no more than 20 miles wide. That's all. Some people probably don't believe that. They think they take up a lot of space. But when the little prince arrived on earth, he was surprised not to see anyone. Oh, perhaps I've come to the wrong planet, he thought. Just then, something flashed in the sand. It was a coil of gold, the color of moonlight. "Good evening," said the little prince. "Good evening," said the snake, for that is what it was. "What is this planet?" asked the little prince. "This is the earth." "Are there no people on the earth?" "This is the desert. There are no people in the desert." "Oh," said the little prince. And he sat down next to the snake and he looked up. "Do the stars here shine so bright so you can see which one is yours? My planet is right there." "It's very beautiful," said the snake. "Why did you leave it?" "Oh, I was having some trouble with a flower," he said. "You're a funny creature, you snake. You're no thicker than a finger." "Yes," said the snake, "but I'm more powerful than a king." "You're not powerful. You haven't got any legs." "Yes, but I can transport you further than a ship." And he coiled himself around the ankle of the little prince like a golden bracelet. "Whomever I touch," said the snake, "I can send back to the planet they came from. The earth is a hard place, and you are weak. I feel sorry for you. If you get homesick for your planet," said the snake, "I can help you to return." "I understand you very well," said the little prince, and he set off. He wandered across the desert. After many, many days, he came across a road, and all roads lead to people. "Hello," said the little prince. He was standing in front of a garden full of roses. "Hello, hello, hello," said the roses. He stared at them. They all looked like his flower. "What are you?" he asked. "We are roses, we are roses, we are roses." And he became sad. He said his flower told him that she was unique in the universe, and here were 5,000 just like her in one garden. And he thought to himself, "I thought I was rich. I thought I had a unique flower, but I just had a common rose. That and 2 volcanoes, and they're no bigger than my knee, they're no taller than my knee. I'm not very rich, I'm not much of a prince." And he lay down on the grass and he cried. Just then, a voice said, "Good morning." "Good morning. Who are you?" "I'm a fox," said the voice. "Oh, you're very pretty. Will you play with me?" said the little prince. "I'm feeling sad." I cannot play with you. Why not? Because you will kill me. No, I won't. Yes, you will, said the fox. You are human, and humans kill foxes. Oh, that's a shame, said the little prince. But you could tame me, said the fox. Tame you? Yes, you could tame me. Right now, said the fox, you and I are like millions of other humans and foxes. But if you tame me, then we will be unique, and we could be friends. Oh, said the little prince, I think I know what you mean. I know a flower on my planet, and I think that she has tamed me. On your planet, said the fox. Well, on my planet, my life is very boring. I hunt chickens. Humans hunt me. But if you were to tame me, it would be as though the stars and the sun had started to shine. Please tame me. All right, said the little prince, I'll tame you. But how do I do it? Ah, said the fox, it's very easy. Sit away, little way of... Oh, yes, that's it, like that. I'll look at you out of the corner of my eye. Don't speak. Words create misunderstandings. But come back, and every day sit a little closer. So the little prince returned, and after a few days, he had tamed the fox. But then it was time for him to go. Oh no, said the fox, I shall cry. Well, it's your fault, said the little prince. You asked me to tame you. I've clearly wasted my time. No, said the fox, you haven't wasted your time. It was the time you spent on me that made me feel important. Oh, thought the little prince, that's like the flower, the time I spent with her. But if you must go, said the fox, would you like a present? Yes, please, he said. Yes, a present. I'll give you a present. And your present will be a secret. Would you like a secret? Yes, please, said the little prince. All right, this is your secret, said the fox. You cannot see important things with your eyes. You can only see them with your heart. Oh, thought the little prince. And he went away, trying very hard not to forget that special secret. Good morning! Good morning, said the railwayman. He was up in his signal box. What do you do, said the little prince. I organize travellers by the thousand. Just then, an express train came past. Where are they going? Nobody knows. Not even the driver, said the railwayman. Just then, another train came past. Where are they going? Are they coming back already? No, it's not the same people. Weren't they happy where they are? No one is happy where they are. But then, a third train came past. Are they chasing the first lot? Said the little prince. No, they're all asleep or yawning. The only ones looking out the window are the children. Only the children know what they're looking for. Yes, said the railwayman, they're lucky. It was now 8 days since my plane crashed, and I had an announcement to make to the little prince. Your stories are lovely, I said, but my plane is not repaired, and I've run out of water. And how did he respond? He started another story. He said, "My friend the fox." I said, "Please, no more." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I'm about to die." And he said, "It's good to have a friend when you're about to die." And I thought, I don't think he realizes the danger. He's never been hungry or thirsty. But then he said, "Well, let's go look for a well." That was absurd. Here we are in the middle of a desert. I was quite weak. There was no water. And he suggested going to look for a well. And that is exactly what we did. We walked for hours. It got dark. Stars came out. I began to feel feverish. I had to sit down. He sat down beside me and he said, "Maybe the stars are so beautiful because somewhere within them, though we cannot see her, is a flower." Together we watched the ridges of sand stretching into the distance in the moonlight. And then he said, "Maybe the desert is so beautiful because somewhere within it, though we cannot see it, is a well." And then he fell asleep. I decided to continue walking and searching. So I picked up the little prince, the sleeping prince. I took him in my arms, walked on. It felt like I was carrying the most precious treasure. I looked at him in the moonlight. His pale forehead, his eyes tight shut, his curls trembling in the breeze, and I thought, this body is only a shell. And then he smiled, and I realized I love this little prince. Even as he sleeps, his loyalty to his flower shines like a flame, and I held him tight for fear that a single breath of wind might blow out that flame. And we walked through the night, me carrying the sleeping prince, until dawn, when we found the well. "Give me a drink," he said. "I really am thirsty." I held the bucket up to his lips, and he closed his eyes as he drank. And when he drank, he said, "The people where you live grow 5,000 roses in one garden, and they're still not satisfied. They would find what they need with a single rose or a single gulp of this delicious water." "Yes," I said. And then he said, "The eyes are blind. Only the heart can see." And I drank myself. But when I drank, something was making me feel uneasy. "You have a secret plan," I said to him. He blushed. And he said, "Well, my coming to Earth was a year ago, soon, and I landed near here." And I said, "So it was no coincidence that we bumped into each other here in the middle of nowhere? You were returning for the anniversary, weren't you?" He didn't answer, but he blushed again, which to me meant yes. And I said, "I'm frightened." And he looked at me, and this time his eyes seemed older and wiser. And he said to me, "Go back to your engine. Try once more to repair it. Then come back here tomorrow. I'll be waiting for you." And I went away. I wasn't feeling reassured. I realized that the little prince had tamed me. And when you're tamed, there's more to cry about. When I came back the next evening, I could see the little prince was talking to someone. "No, not here," he said. "This is the right day, but not the right place." He couldn't see me, and I couldn't see or hear to whom he was talking. And then he said, "Is your poison good? Will it hurt much?" My heart split in two. Then he said, "Go away, go away." I ran forwards, and there in front of him was one of those little yellow snakes, the ones that can end your life in 30 seconds. I reached for my gun, but the snake slid casually across the sand and disappeared. I took the little prince in my arms. He was pale. I said, "What are you doing, talking to a snake?" He didn't answer, but he put his arms around my neck. I could feel his heart beating, and it was beating like a bird that has been shot and is dying. But he managed to talk, and he said, "I'm glad you've repaired your engine. Now you can go home." "How did you know that?" I said. "I was just coming to tell you." And he said, "I must go home also, but it is further and more difficult." Something was happening. He was disappearing into an abyss. But then he laughed. He laughed. And his laughter was like fresh water in a dry, dry desert. I could not bear the thought of never hearing that laugh again. And then he told me, he said, "Tonight, it will be a year since I came to Earth. My star will be exactly above the place I landed." "Little man," I said, "please tell me this isn't happening." And then he said, "I've got a present for you." And he laughed. "That's my present," he said. "My laughter. In the future, you will look up at the stars. And I'll be up there somewhere. And I'll be laughing. And you, only you, will have a star that laughs. And every so often, you will leave your windows open, and people walking past will see you laughing at the stars." But then he got serious, and he said, "You know, tonight you must not come." And I said to him, "I will not leave you." He said, "It will look as though I'm dying. It will look as though I'm suffering. But you won't want to see that." "I will not leave you." "Watch out for the snake," he said. "They are nasty creatures. They might bite you just for fun." "I will not leave you." "But maybe they don't have enough poison for a second bite." I did go to see him. I followed his footsteps across the sand. When he saw me, he said, "Ah, you're here." And he took my hand. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "It will look as though I'm dying, but I won't be. You see, I've got so far to go," he said. "I cannot take this body with me. I must leave it here like an abandoned shell." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. He said, "The stars will be like a million peals of laughter." But he wasn't laughing. He was crying. He was scared. He said, "I must go now. You must let me do this by myself." But he didn't go. He still hesitated. And he said, "I'm responsible for my little flower. She thinks her 4 thorns will protect her, but they won't. They're useless. She's silly." And then he said, "It's time. I'm ready. He stepped forwards. There was a flash of yellow near to his ankle. He didn't cry out. He just stayed there, motionless for a moment. Then he fell, as silent as a tree. Six years have passed since this happened, and I've never told this story. Sometimes I like to look up at the stars, and I wonder to myself, has the sheep eaten the flower? But of course not. The little prince covers it with a glass case every night, and he watches the sheep carefully. But then I think, what if he forgets the glass case? And if the sheep gets out? And then suddenly I don't see millions of peals of laughter. I see the planet sobbing. For this is the great mystery. How can the universe rest if somewhere we know not where a sheep we have never met eats a flower we have never seen? And some people will never realize why that is so important. Maybe one day you'll find yourself in the desert. If you do, and if you meet a little prince who's charming, who laughs, and who refuses to answer questions, then you'll know who he is. Should this happen, please write and tell me. It would comfort me to know that he has come back.